After the amazing day we had yesterday crossing the Dunstan, the predicted weather came in overnight, and now my landie's doing poos in the car park. Jen and I headed round to where Alan and Rob were staying in Alexandra, and after a few cups of coffee and tea while poring over Alan's much scribbled in map book and old mate Ray Stone's travel book, I suggested we could go and have a look up Mount Buster. So we topped up the thermos and headed back the same way we came in last evening, up through Ophir, over the Raggedy Range to the Ida Valley, and up through Oturihua, Ida Burn, Wedderburn, and on through to Naseby. Clark's Rush, or the Mount Buster Diggings, was discovered by Samuel Clark in 1863. The Buster Diggings was the country's highest altitude gold workings at over 1200 metres and were worked up to the early 1900s. At their peak there was over 700 miners living at Buster, where due to the severe weather conditions the field was often closed over winter. Here's a good survival tip for you. Always take a photograph of the notice boards with your phone in case you need to refer to it later. This sign lists the four-wheel drive areas. The hummocks on the track that we're driving over is to divert the water flow off the tracks to prevent them from being scoured out in heavy rain. Some were so extreme you could actually belly out a vehicle with lesser ground clearance. By the time we hit the top of the ridge, the weather had cleared, but there was a very cold breeze blowing. The Buster Diggings is like the surface of the moon, with the entire area just torn apart by the old water sluice guns, creating these odd wind-worn shapes. This goldfield is not a shaft and drive mining operation like, say, Carricktown or Welshtown, searching for the elusive mother lode buried deep in remote mountaintops. What was so unique about the Buster diggings is that it was a sluice and pan recovery of alluvial gold, like Arrowtown and Cromwell, as this entire area is comprised of river-worn white quartz pebbles, so we're driving on an ancient riverbed at 1200 metres above sea level. Over lunch, since the weather had cleared up, we had a discussion on the next move. Back down the way we came, or continue across the top of the Ida range.
Are we going left or right, Tim?
According to my map, we go to your right.
Okay, we'll go right then.
The sign we passed at the base of Buster stated it was only 48 kilometres to Home Hills Runs Road, near St Bathans, so we reasoned that we probably only had about another 40 kilometres to go. Probably. So we may as well carry on, eh?
Flick the little button up and down, adjust the speed. You want to go down more?
Here we cross and recross Guffey's Creek. This was named after Anthony Guffey's, who was unfortunately killed in a tunnel collapse in 1875.
So it was the middle of winter. Everything was covered in snow. We're doing it in the middle of winter.
Let's go off that deep one there. We'll get a photo of you, kid. Nine 915 millimetres.
Tailings Creek Hut was built in 1924, followed by 3 others in 1934. All materials were packed in on the back of mules.
Don't you ever let a chance go by, oh Lord, don't you ever let a chance go by.
He was waiting for that, eh?
It was. He had a look on his face like, don't
You
you
bastard.
dare. Yeah.
Inside Tailings Hut, I found 2 four-wheel drive magazines. One contained my article in the Oxford Land-Rover with a cover shot, and the other contained my article on the Dunstan Road, which we drove yesterday.
Actually.
One of those idle moments when you're in a remote location driving along a thin track with a 100-metre drop on one side and a steep bank on the other, when you think, I'd really hate to meet another car coming the other way. Well, you'll never guess what happened.
Oh, what?
What now?
Back there in the corner? Maybe?
The Toyota boys had no idea where they were, or even if they were on the right track.
Does he want me to talk to him?
I don't know.
Alan said he wanted to word or
He
something.
said it's taken them 3.5 hours to get to here.
Fortunately, I had an offline GPS tracking system on my phone, as well as a satellite in-reach personal locator beacon with text capability, backed up by Alan's famous Wise's New Zealand map book, so we knew exactly where we were within 2 metres, but no idea what lay ahead or how long it was going to take us. Thanks to our chance meeting, we learned that the party of 2 Toyotas were about 3.5 hours into their trip, which would suggest that we're about halfway through the track. On the bright side, we were bloody lucky we didn't meet these chaps a few hundred metres further west, or we would have both been in trouble. The track we're heading for on the other side of the valley is clearly visible in the shot, a point not lost on my driver assist. "10-inch wide front tyres on live axles have advantages in soft ground, but can be a slight disadvantage on tight mountain corners, requiring a heart-stopping second bite. An aspect of making these videos is reliving the journey and sharing that journey with friends and family. Poring over maps to gather place names, you often come across a few points of interest that you'd wish you'd known about at the time. Just down the Pt9 river, which we just crossed, is a tributary called Hut Creek, where there's a stone cairn to the memory of Sergeant Garvey. On the 23rd of September 1863, Sergeant Garvey and Constable MacDonald were ordered out from Naseby in a historically bad snow blizzard to report on the conditions on one of the Buster goldfields. The two arrived at the goldfield the next day, and finding no shelter or food, decided to head back out, along with the baker Harry McGee. In the Hut Creek gorge in fading light and heavy snow, the party split, due to a disagreement in directions. McGee and MacDonald made it out 2 days later. A search party found the body of 30-year-old Sergeant Edward John Garvey, a survivor of the Crimean War, surrounded by deep snow in Hut Creek Gorge. His horse was also found, alive, still with a saddle and bridle attached. A stone cairn was erected at the spot where the body was found, which had been lost to time and only rediscovered in 1999. A new plaque was installed a year later to the memory of Sergeant Ted Garvey in the winter of 1863. We finally climbed up onto the tops, out of the Oti-Tamata Valley. This area is known as the Ida Plateau. You'll notice the absence of any other foliage other than tussock. These vast flat-top mountain ranges are covered in heavy snow over the winter months that are hammered by excessive high wind conditions, strong and cold enough to sandblast or freeze off anything that stands in the way. You just can't believe what you're seeing when you stumble upon the original Ida Valley Railway Station, next to a stream at 1,350 metres above sea level on the Ida Plateau. I'm not able to find when it was actually moved up here, but it was dragged up behind a couple of bulldozers for use as a musterer's hut, I guess in the late 1980s when the Ida Valley Railway was closed and turned into a cycleway.
It's off a barbecue or something like that.
Yard's hut is an original backcountry musterer's hut located within the Otiaki Conservation Park on Ida Plateau. At around 1,500 metres above sea level, the hut is fully exposed to the elements and must have stood up to some significant storms over the years. But has it got a building permit? From the tussock area, we suddenly come across this barren area of smashed rock. I'm not a geologist, but I understand it's caused by the layered nature of the rock that shatters when the water trapped between the layers freezes. I was just commenting to Jen on how rugged the landscape is, with these once vast stone tors that have been shattered over millions of years to crumpled rock piles, the back entrance to Mordor.
Well, Jim, the image you gave us, like the brink didn't come off. Whoops.
This vast, barren, rocky landscape across the top of the Hawkton Range has an unnerving feeling to it, like you're intruding on nature's most aggressive beauty. At over 1,600 metres, imagine this in blizzard conditions with 200 km/h winds screaming up from the valley below.
little spinning coming up.
I see.
This section here I'm going down would have been a prick of a thing to come up.
Yeah, I like the idea of coming up.
You can see the holes they've dug on cross axles.
It'll be that Hilux hanging wheels, wouldn't it? Because it wouldn't have a light beam axle. The young fella said the first part was the worst bit.
Yeah,
Perhaps I've definitely gone through the right way then.
they've been 6 hours.
7 days earlier up the Macaulay River near Tekapo, we dropped the spring out of the chassis on the cross axle, and now I've done it again.
Drop the spring out again.
Have we?
I think so. We've done it again.
We managed to lever it back into place only to immediately pop out again, but this time we secured the top using a couple of hose clamps. It was certainly great to be back on State Highway 85 just as the sun was setting. The cloud building up to the south suggested that tomorrow we're not going to be as lucky as we were today with the weather.